Way down south in Florida, an artist named Peter and his wife Jill created a lovely garden inspired by their time in Paris and New York. Among the many carved antique limestone statues from Italy was a concrete rabbit who watched the lute player, Ceres, and her daughter Persephone. One night, just before daybreak, something quite unusual happened. A beam of light lit up the plants in front of the rabbit, whose name was Merton. A large crystal floated in front of him, and he saw himself reflected in it, and the statues he had been looking at for years. He was amazed at what he saw. It was like being inside a rainbow, or seeing double. Or, what was happening to Ceres? Can a statue dance? It was as if she was spinning around in a circle in the light from the crystal. If Merton had not been a statue, he would have rubbed his eyes and tried to wake up. But statues don't dream, and they certainly can't move. The sun was just coming up, and there was Ceres, only she was wearing a Venetian mask, and looked like she was at carnival in Venice, near the mountains she had been carved from. And there was Persephone, and she was wearing a crown, just like her mother. Oh my, what was going on? After all, this was the artist's garden in the Emerald Forest, as he called it, and except for the cows and horses behind the wall, it was very quiet. But Merton heard voices. The statues were talking. Not just Ceres and Persephone, all of them. Merton listened carefully, although their voices were quite loud in the early morning silence. But that wasn't all. The colors were brighter, and all sorts of things were in the garden, like a golden coach that went by the lute player, Antoine, or the ship sailing toward the wall. And after the coach passed by, Antoine was surrounded by musical instruments, masks, and other items. Even Merton found himself with a clock, a gold key, and a croquet mallet. Where were these things coming from? In a bird cage. There were many birds in the garden, but never in cages. And the peacock certainly wouldn't fit in even the largest of cages. Merton had to find out why things were so magical. Was there something about the beam of light, or the crystal that opened up a new world? Or was it something else? When Peter came back from Maine in October, the garden was a terrible mess. Even Merton was black with moss and mold, but Peter had cleaned the statues, pulled vines and weeds out, and taken care of everything. And for the first time, he really looked at the statues. And, funny thing, he actually thought he heard them talking to themselves and to him. It was as if the poems he had written about the garden had come to life. In fact, it was as if the garden was a theater, and the statues were actors in a play. Ceres was talking to an old dressmaker's dummy, and was so upset that she had not provided roses for the guests. The silver gleamed, but the fruit had spilled all over the ground. "Why, Bessie, just look at you! The Ashley Wilkses are coming to tea! I'm just mortified! Mortified!" While he was photographing, Peter heard this dialogue. A few minutes later, Belle, really Ceres, said to Bessie, "It's a jungle here." And Peter painted the black and white digital photograph with deep, damp greens to make it look more like a jungle. Ah, thought Merton, the magic is the artist with his props and camera, and his brush. In that sense, the artist is like a magician. But it is not just a trick, it's fine art. Just as the ocean down east inspires the artist, the garden down south has been his inspiration for many paintings, poems, and now the painted photography. Let's give some applause to the statues in the Stilton garden, and a special thanks, Merton, for sharing this with all of us.